It started like any other Tuesday. I came home late, microwaved some leftovers, and sprawled on the couch, scrolling through my phone. The clock on the cable box blinked 11:59 p.m. I remember thinking I should probably head to bed soon. Then, it clicked over to midnight, and that's when everything changed. Click. It was a sound so distinct, so final. The front door. I sat up listening. Another click, this time from the back door. Then a series of smaller, metallic sounds from the windows. Every single lock in the house had just engaged simultaneously. I got up, a little annoyed, thinking it was some weird electrical surge. I walked to the front door and grabbed the deadbolt. It wouldn't budge. Not stiff, not jammed. It was solid, like it was fused to the doorframe. I tried the handle, nothing. A cold knot started to form in my stomach. I went to the back door, the kitchen door, the same thing. Solid, immovable. Okay, don't panic. That's what you tell yourself, right? I went to the living room window, the big one that overlooks the street. I tried to lift it. It felt like it was welded shut. I pushed against the glass, expecting some give, some rattle. There was nothing. It was like pushing against a wall of solid steel. I ran from window to window, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. All of them were the same, sealed, completely and utterly sealed. I started to bang on the front door, my fists thudding against the wood. Hello, can anyone hear me? I shouted until my throat was raw. My neighbors were close. Surely someone would hear. But the silence that answered was profound, absolute. It felt like the house had wrapped itself in a thick blanket of soundproofing, cutting me off from the entire world. The only sound was my own frantic heartbeat hammering in my ears. Then, the house itself started to make noise. A low groan, like a settling foundation. But it wasn't that. It was deeper, more organic. The walls creaked, not like old wood, but like old joints stretching after a long sleep. The floorboards beneath my feet seemed to shift, to breathe. The air grew thick and heavy, carrying a strange, dusty smell, like earth and something ancient. The house exhaled, a long, slow, satisfied sigh that seemed to vibrate through my very bones. This wasn't just a building anymore, it was alive. I backed away from the door, my eyes darting around the familiar living room, which now felt alien and menacing. The shadows thrown by the streetlights outside seemed to twist and writhe. The armchair in the corner looked like a crouching beast. My mind was racing, trying to find a logical explanation. A prank, a highly sophisticated home invasion. But the sheer physical impossibility of it all was crushing. How could every lock engage? How could every window be sealed? That's when I heard the voice. It wasn't from the TV or the radio. It wasn't from outside. It came from everywhere at once. From the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It was calm, measured, and devoid of any emotion. It was a voice that held an ancient, undeniable authority. You live here now. The words hung in the air, simple, declarative, and utterly terrifying. I screamed. It was a raw, primal sound of pure terror. I kicked the door, threw a lamp against the window, hoping to shatter it. The lamp just bounced off the glass with a dull thud and clattered to the floor. Unbroken, the house didn't even seem to notice. It just continued its slow, rhythmic breathing. Let me out. I screamed at the walls. Who are you? What do you want? The only answer was the steady creak and groan of the house settling in around me. It felt like I had been swallowed whole. I was no longer a resident in my home. I was a prisoner inside a living entity. My home, the place that was supposed to be my sanctuary, had become my cage. Days began to blur, or maybe it was just hours. The clock on the cable box had frozen at 12 o'clock. The sun still rose and set outside the sealed windows, casting long, distorted shadows across the rooms. But time inside the house felt different, stagnant. Food appeared in the refrigerator. The water still ran from the taps. The house was taking care of me, in a way it was providing for its new, permanent resident. I spent my time exploring, testing every inch of my prison. I found things I'd never seen before. A small, locked door behind a bookshelf in the study. I had lived here for 5 years and never knew it existed. The key, I later found, was simply resting on the mantelpiece, as if waiting for me. Behind the door was a dusty, narrow staircase leading down into utter darkness. A cold, musty draft blew up from below. I stood at the top for a long time, terrified of what I might find, but even more terrified of the unchanging silence of the rooms above. Eventually, I went down. The stairs led to a cellar, but not a normal one. The walls were not concrete or brick. They were made of something that looked like packed earth, with thick, root-like structures weaving through them. In the center of the room was a single stone pedestal, and on it, a very old, leather-bound book. Its pages were brittle, filled with handwritten script in a language I didn't recognize, but there were drawings, sketches of my house. not as it was built, but as it grew. The drawings depicted it like a plant, sprouting from a seed, its rooms branching out like limbs. There were other drawings too, pictures of people, a man from what looked like the 1920s, a woman in a 1950s dress, a family from the 80s. Each of them was drawn inside the house, their faces etched with a dawning realization, then a placid acceptance. The last page was empty, except for a rough, unfinished sketch of a single figure, standing in the living room. It was me. That's when I understood. The house chooses. It waits, sometimes for decades, for the right person. Someone alone, someone who has made the house their whole world without even realizing it. It absorbs them, adds their life to its own, and it grows. We're not prisoners. We are its substance, its memory. I came back upstairs. The house felt different now. The groans and creaks sounded less like a threat and more like a greeting. The air was still heavy, but now it felt familiar, comforting, almost. I sat on the couch, the same couch where this all began. I picked up the remote, but the TV was dead. Of course it was. The outside world didn't matter anymore. Sometimes, I talk to the ones who came before. I don't hear them with my ears, but I feel their presence in the walls, a faint whisper in the quiet moments. They tell me about their lives, their time here. They are the house, and the house is them.